when I was a kid, like most kids, I wanted to do good in the world. And so I thought I'd be a journalist or maybe the mayor of my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri, and made my way first to work on Capitol Hill when I started my career. I spent 6 years in government on the Hill and then in the Clinton administration. And then I had a theory. And my theory was that you could do an awful lot of good from big public facing companies, and that really companies of any size can be important platforms for constructive engagement. And I've worked at three great companies: American Express, Estee Lauder, and now the last 15 years at Pfizer. And all this time, I'm studying leadership. I've worked for 9 CEOs. I've reported to 6. I've watched what they do and what makes the difference between those who do a fine job and those who can really inspire a vision and drive motivation and make important change. And I landed on the idea that the difference maker is those who are powerful communicators and who can really connect with their audience. And so all of these ideas crystallized during the pandemic, where my role at Pfizer had me on the front lines, rolling out the vaccine, which we can talk about. And it crystallized in that time into 10 principles that I've put into the book so that I can help other people to also break through in whatever realm they choose. Because the gap that I saw was that people considered communications a soft skill, a nice to have, not nearly as relevant as other things that we see in leaders like a finance or analytic background. And my principal argument is that communications is a rock hard competency and as relevant as anything else to leadership and driving change. And that I wanted to give it the spotlight that I feel it really deserves. And as you know, because you've been kind enough to read my book, it's full of examples of people who have demonstrated that competency and moved their organizations forward. Let me give one example, and that is Ken Chenault, who was the leader of American Express after the 9/11 attack on the city. His headquarters was closed and shuttered. He couldn't get together with his people. And he decided that get together is what they needed to do. And so he invited everyone who worked for the company from across the city to gather at Madison Square Garden. He walked into the garden. He ripped up the speech that had been written for him. He spoke from the heart. He hugged the employees who had suffered losses and tragedies during the attack. And he gave an optimistic tone that he believed the company's best days were ahead of it. He was a new CEO at the time. His company was, struggling because of the economic uncertainty, but he was able to bring together some real rock hard skills that Ken has. And that, even though I was no longer working at the company, that talk was heard across the city for the beauty of its hope and optimism.